A few folks on the street are aware of Nigeria's new development finance institution called DBN PLC. That's the acronym for Development Bank of Nigeria. That was an initiative that is currently being focused on by the Buhari's administration to be a game changer in funding rather financing medium and small enterprises. So this is the new kid on the block, and the Chief Executive Officer, Tony Okwanachi, is live to us this Friday for a one-on-one to bring us up to speed what this new DFI has been doing in the very few years of his existence and the way forward. It's good to see you, Mr. Okwanachi. It's good. Thank you very much for coming through on the program this morning. Very briefly, give us the highlights of what the key objectives and the focus of this new DFI is all about, and what makes it particularly different from the other DFIs.
Thank you, Boasin, for having me. Development Bank of Nigeria is conceived as a wholesale financial development finance institution focused strictly on the micro, small, and middle enterprises. The idea is to be able to alleviate the financing constraints faced by that segment. So you set up an institution that's strictly focused on that segment. And our mandate is clearly in three folds. First, we are supposed to provide funding for development, what we call participating financial institutions to on-lend to end borrowers. Secondly, we provide partial guarantees where the issue is not funding, but has to do with sharing risk with financial institutions to encourage them to lend to end borrowers, that is the small and middle enterprises. And thirdly, where it's necessary, we are also going to provide technical assistance to the participating financial institutions to ensure that they're encouraged to lend to that segment. The idea is for us to be able to create an environment, essentially make it possible for them to access funding from different sources.
In terms of your financials, if you are doing interventions as a DFI, you need some size of deep pocket. I'm sure you know that. So tell us about your capitalization, your financials, and how you expect to use that to deliver on that mandate for medium and small enterprises.
First, as a wholesale financial institution, regulatorily, our capital is 100 billion. So that tells you that we have deep pockets as far as regulatory capital is concerned. But beyond that, we have funding from our development partners across. We have funding from the World Bank. We have funding from the African Development Bank. We have funding from the German Development Bank, KfW. We have funding from the French Development Bank, AFD. And of course, we have investors like the European Investment Bank and the African Development Bank. So in terms of take-up capital, we have good funding that would last us for some time as we start our business.
Yes, but a number of initiatives have been in existence before your bank, of which you're pioneering, the CEO came on stream. So how are you coordinating all of these initiatives with the Bankers Committee, for example? They have their own 200, north of that, of billions of naira, which they said they want to they're intervening in medium and small enterprises. You have a number of agencies, SMIDAN and the rest of them. How does it all work out under your own mandate and objectives?
For us, we are coming with a collaborative approach to it. The truth of the matter is, given that segment of MSME, the requirement, the financing requirement is quite huge, and there's a huge gap in that area. So the more we have financial institutions coming up and providing funding, the better. And in all this you've mentioned, we are collaborating one way or the other. We are coming in a special way to fill in the gap provided for long-term funds. We are coming with long-term funds as long as 10 years, which is a huge gap that has been in that market. Most of the funds available are usually short-term or middle-term. Hardly you have funds longer than 5 years for that segment. But DBN is coming into the market with long-term fund to complement what the others are doing. So if you look at the other intervention funds, they are addressing different areas. And with the DBN fund coming on board too, we're going to complement and work together to ensure that that segment of the economy is well served.
So give us a practical a way in which an MSME can get a loan from Development Bank of Nigeria. How does it work from end to end?
Okay. First and foremost, we're a wholesale institution, so we essentially have to walk through participating financial institutions, and this includes commercial banks, microfinance institutions, other DFIs, and other retail DFIs, and other financial institutions. So what the customer has to do is to go to their bank, ask for a DBN loan, and then the bank approaches us with the customer's request and we fund. Now, what we've done so far is to provide lines for banks. We commenced our lending in November last year with 3 microfinance institutions, where we made available to them about 5 billion to on-lend to this, the small and medium enterprises. And what we do is we expect them to come with the pipelines of these customers to us and provide funding for them. So all they need to do is go to their banks, ask for DBN loan, and say, look, I want to access DBN loan, because DBN loan provides a longer tenor for repayment. So they can approach their banks, and then banks come to DBN. Now, as we speak, we have onboarded several commercial banks, and the process of onboarding more commercial banks is ongoing. Our plan is that before the end of the year, most of the commercial banks will qualify, meeting our eligibility criteria, will be onboarded, so that we'll be able to lend and we're able to spread across the country.
At what rate do these monies would eventually cross over from your DFI to the commercial banks to the end users?
Oh, we're quite sure we have clear guidelines with the participating financial institutions. We have clear guidelines when they get the funds. We have clear guidelines when the funds must hit the accounts of the end borrowers. We have clear guidelines on how to track to ensure that these funds get to the end borrowers. Beyond that, we also have guidelines to show clearly a framework that will also monitor the impact of these funds when it gets to the end borrower. For us, we want to see are the development objectives being met, the impact, how is it going to make? So from end to end, I want to see from the disbursement and from the actual utilization of the funds to ensure that the impact set out is being met.
Yes, but at what cost is it coming? At what percentage do I get it? And that's what viewers wants to hear from you. Is it 10%? Is it 5%? Is it concessionary? Is there a moratorium?
Macroeconomic indicator. So since we don't lend directly, our pricing is with the financial institutions, okay, and then they on-lend. So we ensure that our pricing to the financial institutions is quite robust in such a way that they can be flexible to provide better lending rate to the end borrowers.
You're not willing to divulge how much you lend to the commercial banks?
No, it depends upon the risk of the commercial bank. You say when you do wholesale lending, you don't have a flat rate for everybody. So what you have is you have a benchmark rate, and based on that, you also have what they call a risk premium. You lend to different financial institutions because we are taking the risk of the financial institutions, and based on the risk we are taking, we have an assessment. So the pricing to the different financial institutions are different, and that will enforce whatever they lend to their end borrowers.